So I think it's helpful context for the listeners, but in 30 to 60 seconds, how would you describe it is what you do?
Absolutely. Okay, so do you want title with that? I guess I'll just get into it.
Let's do it.
So, yeah. Okay, so I'm Tanya. My company is Marrow Studio, and I'm a brand strategist. So what we really specialize in is helping evolving brands carve and claim their space with clarity. So what that just means is we help you and show up in the way that best expresses who you are and what you do. So we build brands. We're foundation builders. Yeah.
Perfect. That was great. Awesome. So with that, we do like to start things off with some rapid fire questions. Get the conversation flowing. That's very unrelated to what we talked about on the podcast, but it's still nice. So,
I'm down.
what is actually we had a movie director on recently, and I would always ask, "What's your favorite movie?" And he had such a tough time answering it, and he suggested we ask, "What movie have you watched the most?" So I'm going to ask that. So, what movie have you watched the most?
Oh my gosh. That's such a funny question. I'll try to do a rapid fire properly, but
That's right.
I'm not a big repeat movie watcher, to my partner's just sadness, and he's so disappointed in me for that. But I would say probably because of him, we've watched like the Ocean's 11, 12s. We've watched, oh my gosh, we've watched the, oh gosh, the one with the girl, and I'm failing with the rapid fire.
That was pretty. I don't think I can help you with the one with the girl.
Might need a few more hints.
Mockingjays. Oh my gosh, those ones, the Mockingjay ones.
Oh, Hunger Games.
Yeah, Hunger Games. Thank you.
Oh, Hunger Games. That does have a girl in it. You're
the one with the girl. Yeah.
Yes.
Gosh, I mean, I really, really love all of the Indiana Jones movies. Those are like classics. Love those. Gosh, a few favorites.
I mean, those are all good. I haven't watched Oceans in a while, but I remember how cool they all were in that movie.
Yeah.
Guys. Yeah. So I actually watched F1 last night with Brad Pitt, and I was like, man, he's even cooler at 61. So it's that was fun. Do you have a book that has changed your life or that you give away lots?
Oh man. I mean, I'm kind of a poetry lover. Not everyone's into poetry, but I often gift a book from Yrsa Daly Ward. It's called Bone. It's just like a beautiful poetry book, and it's raw, and it really informs, in some ways, my own personal writing style, which I really love. Yeah, I love to write when I can.
So what was it called?
It's the poet is, and she's also a writer as well, Yrsa Daly Ward, and the title of the book is Bone.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I love it. What is your favorite podcast, if you're a podcaster?
Oh man, I mean, I love anything NPR, but I also really like Diary of a CEO right now. I find you just hear from the most interesting folks and all about their expertise and how to apply that to your life. So I learn a lot from that one, and I love Steven. He's just such a good interviewer. So props to him. Mm-hmm.
I always get sucked in by the clickbaity titles on YouTube that he has.
Such titles.
I know. I'll be like, porn's destroying your life. I'm like, what? Oh no. So it's always yeah. So I always watch. He's mastered it.
Yeah.
If you could visit anywhere in the world right now, where would you go?
Oh man, I mean, Japan is calling me back. It's one of my favorite places in the world.
You were just talking about Taylor was going to Japan, so before you joined, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm trying to plan a trip, but I'm finding it very difficult with the language. Their websites are a little bit hard to navigate, and they don't seem to do everything online like we do over here. So,
yeah, it's a little bit of a barrier for sure. I really can't speak to your experience because I went with someone who spoke the language. So, yeah. Good luck. What's great is I know Google has a ton of tools for that, thankfully. You can kind of just we did this a lot then, just taking a photo of a sign, for example, and it just translates for you. That's how you win in
Well,
Japan.
what's the best place to go to? I know Tokyo is obviously a big one, but any other good spots?
Oh man, I mean, I would probably have to say Tokyo just because you can get kind of every type of experience you would possibly imagine in Tokyo. I really recommend if you want to. Do you know Monocle, the publication, the Monocle?
No, I haven't read it.
If you haven't, they do something called like they do these guidebooks essentially, and you can do a walking tour of all the things you're passionate about. And so when I went and I did this entire walking tour around cocktails. So it takes you to all the best bars and you can kind of like hit all the spots on foot. So that's the best way to do, yeah, Tokyo. Do that.
Nice.
Monocle guidebook.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Nice. So Japan. Okay, that's a good answer. So one question we always ask, how do you lock in at work when you're like, it's time to get down to business?
Well, so I'm kind of a freak around controlling my environment. As you can see, like I'm in my home. So I have a home office. Over COVID, I actually learned how important controlling my space is for productivity. Like it can't be loud. I can't have people in my ear asking questions. So control of environment really helps me lock in. I also really love like a good lo-fi playlist or, 5 different beverages to my right-hand side.
Yeah.
The things that I like can't live without, but yeah.
Yeah. Any suggestions with the music? I know it's kind of like low energy, but is there anything specific, any artist specific you like to put on?
Oh man, I mean, Nourished by Time is kind of been on repeat lately. So I don't know if either of you have listened. Nourished by Time. That's the latest. Like he just did a new album, and oh my god, it's wonderful.
Okay.
But then if you're looking for more of a playlist, I mean, shout out to Spotify. They know what they're doing.
I know what to do.
Yeah.
Lock in playlist. Yeah, perfect. And how do you lock out when it's like I gotta relax, I'm working too much? What do you like to do for fun?
Oh gosh, that's hard. It's hard when you're a business owner. Still learning, still figuring that out.
Yeah.
But probably for me, I really love to just like change of scenery. So you can't see it, but behind me, I'm lucky enough to have kind of this little green room. We have a bunch of plants and things in there, and I just like roll out a yoga mat, put on some music, light a little incense, do some movement.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do. Pull a tarot card, like I get witchy. It's good. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, there you go. Awesome. Well, that's the rapid fires. Now we can get into the real stuff.
The real stuff.
Yeah. The serious stuff, the boring stuff. So, yeah. So where did you grow up, and did you have any entrepreneurs in your family that kind of inspired you to go down this path?
I grew up in Calgary, born and raised. I know we're rare. And no entrepreneurs in my family, but my mom was very intrapreneurial, if that makes sense. Like she was very by the beat of her own drum. She really like trailblazed in a lot of different ways. She has a very unique kind of past. I won't get into it, but basically she instilled in me that you don't necessarily have to be given an invitation. She forged her own path. And I think that seeing that and seeing a woman who worked as well, like she was very career driven. We were kind of left to our own devices as kids, like figure out how to feed yourself and all the things, which, at the time I didn't quite get it, but now I really respect and admire the way she gave us so much independence. And I do think that's in a lot of ways why I crafted my own journey the way that I have. Yeah. So entrepreneur in the family. But I also was exposed to entrepreneurs very early on because in university, I had a friend group, bunch of guys. I don't know if you, maybe Taylor, maybe this, I don't know, from Calgary, you might remember. You look about my age.
I went to school in Edmonton, so.
Oh, did you shoot? Okay. Anyway, these guys, they had like I'll air quote, this company called Light and Soul, and they were artists and they were designing clothes, and I supported them, whether it was working at events or helping them with some of their designs or even doing like modeling or makeup for modeling or whatever it was. I just at an early age saw that you could also make a business out of nothing. So that was very helpful to see early days too.
Yeah. And were you always sort of drawn to like business, or I mean, obviously you're in sort of a creative field, but still, obviously the business world. But was that always something that was like something you knew you wanted to do even when you were younger?
So I'll kind of like travel back. I bartended as soon as I could. And I think what I was doing at the time was, money equals freedom. So I didn't go to school right away because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, essentially. So, but I knew that I could travel. My mom had also traveled, so that was something that I picked up. And so I bartended because I was like, okay, I can make the most amount of money in the smallest amount of time. And then as soon as I had enough money, I like hit it. And I went to Europe, and I traveled around Europe for months and months. I went to 46 countries roughly, came back briefly for another bar stint, and then got enough money to go to Australia. And I lived in a van for about 8 months. So I think at the time, all I knew is I don't really want to follow the rules. I want to do something that feels exciting. I'm young. I was encouraged to travel by my parents too. So I had that freedom and flexibility. So when I had come back from traveling for about 2 years, I looked at my options and I was like, well, the only thing that makes sense for me is business because it seems effective. Like it seems efficient. I looked at school like, okay, this is a means to an end. Like again, time for money. I was really looking at like, how do I optimize what I'm doing to give myself freedom? Freedom is it's a core value of mine. So business made sense. But when I looked at all of the options, I was like, okay, well, not a ton is calling me. I knew marketing was interesting. And then I also knew entrepreneurship was interesting. And there was a program at the U of C that was brand new, roughly. It was only a couple of years old, entrepreneurship and innovation. So I took it and I got my designation with entrepreneurship as a focus and then marketing as a minor.
Do you feel like the school helped you with entrepreneurship, or was it too formal? Because like this is something I think a lot of people struggle with, is like, oh, I want to own a business. Do I go to school first, or do I just try something on my own?
Yeah.
Did you get value from it?
I did, in a sense of school taught me that if you work hard for something, it will pay off. Like it taught me dedication in a way that I really didn't understand before. A business degree is practically all math, and I'm like not a math girly, but I knew I had to study hard and like figure it out. And I think just like committing myself to something and doing something hard, even when the grades weren't necessarily what I wanted in the beginning, like it just taught me dedication. So I think you need that in business. I think that was really important. Do I think that the rest of the curriculum supports entrepreneurs? Not at all. Like I know base level financial and accounting practices, that's helpful, but you outsource that when you're a business owner. You get help, you get support, you bring the right people to the table when you don't have those strengths. I do think entrepreneurship, what I was exposed to in those classes, was very relevant. So I don't know if that's available at all schools, but a couple of my professors instilled in me lessons and advice and information that I definitely took into my businesses, because I've had a couple. I actually built a business plan in my specialty that I actually built out. So I built a business plan for a consignment business, and I actually built a consignment business. So it's interesting. It's like most times I would say no, Taylor, to your question, but because I focused on entrepreneurship in school, yes, it really helped me quite a bit. Yeah. So those who maybe are thinking about it, hit up entrepreneurship if it's a course or a focus.
Yeah, no, for sure. So once you finished your schooling, so you had the business plan stuff, did you go right into this consignment business, or did you go and work for a marketing firm?
I worked for a marketing firm. I knew that I didn't know anything. So there was that awareness. It's like school's great, but I was practical enough. And I think, I was a little bit more mature at that point, So I knew I needed to be a sponge. I would also recommend to anyone who's starting out their careers, you know, go somewhere where you can learn something, because I think jumping into it right away, it's just, there's a lot of like school of hard knocks with that. Whereas when you put yourself in a place where you can learn under someone, you can gain mentorship, you know, you're actually learning and burning like under someone else's umbrella. That's an expense to someone else. Someone else is taking that on. Like, bless Sheena Rogers for taking me on when I was that age. Like, I didn't have a lot of experience. And because I started at an agency that was, you know, local and scrappy and evolving and innovative, like, I really got to touch a lot of things very early in my career, which was very helpful. Agency is a whole other world too. So I'm glad I did it. It was definitely a ringer, but I'm glad I started at an agency.
When you were there, was it like always in your head, like, this is temporary, like I'm gonna go do my own thing, I got these business ideas? Or like, I guess I'm just curious what the mindset was, if it was always like, you know, the focus was to start something.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, I've always been the kind of person that just follows, I think, in a way, what feels right. I think I admired entrepreneurship. I didn't know at the time if I maybe could do it or believed in myself. Just going to be totally honest with you both. I just followed where I saw opportunity, and I didn't ask for permission. So, you know, even when opportunities presented at the agency that I really wanted, I went after it. Where it struck for me was when I was in an agency setting and doing a marketing job. I really was craving creativity. I felt like I wasn't able to access my creativity. And so that's when I started my consignment business, which I started out of the closet of the agency that I was at the time. And I would invite people to like come shop the closet on the weekends. So I guess it's interesting. Entrepreneurship for me came at a time where I was craving something that I couldn't access in my day-to-day. Does that answer your question? So I think partially, but maybe not as vividly as I know I'm one now.
So how did you settle on that particular business? Was it just something that interested you and you're like, I'm going to try this? Or was there like, I see an opportunity based on these like profit margins? Like, what was the motivating and like what gave you the confidence to try it?
Yeah, I think it was the opportunity. Again, I think I'm driven by, where's the opportunity? Where can I win? Where is there a need? So when I was a bartender, I jumped into that opportunity because there wasn't anyone who had the availability to be trained to become a bartender. So they threw me right in. I actually never served. I was just a bartender. And usually the hierarchy of that is like, you start with serving, then you get, you know, reps, and then you get moved to bar. So I think I've always just been like, okay, there's an opportunity. It works with my skill set. I'm going to give it a go. With consignment, I've loved thrifting always, just because I love finding something unique. I used to host these parties where everyone would bring their clothing and kind of throw it in a pile. And there were always really great pieces that not everyone claimed. And so I started to think about, okay, well, someone needs these pieces. So that's where the business idea kind of came through. And then I knew that I could also thrift and find great pieces because I'm a curator. So it was just an opportunity I saw and grabbed it.
How did that go for you, like when you started it? Because you were probably pretty early on in your career. You started this sort of side hustle.
Yes.
Was it something you were making money off of, or how did it unfold?
In our first year, we made $20,000. Not bad. Yeah, for me, I've never really been like, for the side hustle, it wasn't about the money. It was about the creativity and being able to make something that was mine. The opportunity for what my business is now was actually something that I started to build at the agency that I was at. So I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I answered your question, but yeah, let me know what the question was again.
Yes, just like how the side hustle went, like this.
How it went?
Business. Yes, but you kind of answered that. You said like the first year you made 20,000, so it was obviously successful. Like when you started it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really great foray into just like business in general, because in my third year, I brought on a business partner, and actually my competitor approached me and she said, you know what, I really love what you're doing from a brand perspective. We have an online store. That's what you need. I was pop-up at the time, so it was purely just in-person, one-off events is how I built my business for the side hustle. And when she approached me, she said, let's merge. Like, I like what you're doing. I need your skill set, you need mine. And so again, there was that opportunity. So we merged, and that was my entry point into business partnership, into shareholder agreements, into how to negotiate for my value, all of those things. And so that was happening on one side, and then my career trajectory in marketing and brand was happening at the same time, which I actually think were very, very complementary. Because brand and brand building has always been something I've touched in some way.
Yes. And sorry, just to confirm, so I was looking at your LinkedIn. So this was Fawn Boutique, like that was your business.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Because I used to live in Calgary, so I remember it was near me because I lived in Victoria Park. So I remember there was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing it sometimes that like.
Oh
Because
yeah.
those were the pop-ups you would have.
Totally, exactly. I did Market
Yes.
Collective, and then we also were in a CCAN one summer, which is maybe what you're thinking of too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So that's what you were running. Okay, so is that something that you continue to run? Like once you partnered with, you said your competitor approached you. So how did it, I guess, it unfold once you made that official partnership?
Yeah, and sorry, this is my convoluted career path here, but I would say I'm a serial entrepreneur. Like, I know that I'll start multiple businesses. You know, it won't just be one. I love kind of having my hands in all things. But so the business, when I merged with this partnership, that kind of took off, and there was opportunity for me there. We had conversations about me becoming like the marketing brand director for that company, for that business, as opposed to just being a founder, partner, what have you. But it didn't end up panning out in the way that I wanted it to. So I actually started to pursue my consultancy business, which is now what Marrow is. So I kind of think of it as there were two businesses happening simultaneously. The business merged. We called it the Revant. It was rebranded. We had a really cool warehouse space, 3,000 square feet. Awesome business. It lasted for about 10 years. Recently just closed that a couple of years ago. And kind of where that started and stopped was I supported from a brand perspective. So really helping them build the brand at the Revant, helping them set up their e-commerce store, brand shoots, all of those things, like campaign work, was doing that as more of a founder partner. And then on the other side, left the agency that I was at because I really wanted to get closer to brand, and moved over to a creative agency at the time and offered my services as a strategic director. So that's a whole other story if you want to get into it.
So how much of your willingness to trial these things do you think was like learning on the job, like preparing you for kind of your current business, and like you might not have been able to actually get there if you hadn't had all these?
Oh my gosh,
these different paths?
All of it. I think it was the stream of, you know, building something that's mine, really being closely connected to the brand development on the consignment side, while also learning marketing, really diving in deep on the marketing side to research and human behavior. I really like understanding why people make purchasing decisions. So on the agency side was really spearheading we called it audience planning at the time. So market research, one-on-one conversations, focus group surveying to really bolster the marketing planning we were building. I really love that work because that insights work is all about psychology and why people make certain decisions. And so, yeah, I think to answer your question, in following what I loved and in following what I was passionate about, all of those interests and those touch points in my history have led to where I am now. I use all of those skills. And I would say that's often what happens in career. It's like, I would say just keep testing things, especially when you're new in your career path, because you don't necessarily know exactly what it is that you want to be doing yet. And so you should try all the things. And I lean on all of those skills.
Yeah, I think that's something like a trap people fall into is like, I need the perfect business plan. I need the perfect sort of market research, do too much upfront with rather than just trying a bunch of things and then eventually you sort of discover it along the way.
Yeah, because the trips like teach you so much more. I hate to say it, but like when you fall on your face, it teaches you so much more than any textbook or any, you know, this is how to, here's the step by step. I really think that's also what creates an entrepreneur is like, I really don't have the patience for someone to like lay it out for me or tell me what to do. I know I have to meet it with my own approach and figure it out kind of the hard way. Yeah.
You mentioned a bit about research and the role that it played was important. Like what does that mean? Like how would someone maybe start doing that for a business idea they have, or is that something you need professionals for? Like what exactly goes into that?
That's a great question. I think as the world evolves, and as you know, every marketplace gets more and more saturated, testing and you know whether we want to call it beta testing or pulse checking or validating ideas is a very, very important skill to flex when you're early stages of any sort of business idea, because if you don't have demand for something, you're not going to have a business. So there's lots of, and the beautiful thing about the internet these days and YouTube is like there's lots of information that you can gather in order to how best to gather insights or set up research on your own accord. But you know, at the base level, just talking about it, you know, asking people their opinion, bringing people into conversations about ideas, not being so precious about them. Ideas are just ideas, you know, they're only valuable in terms of the ability to commit to them and execute them. And I say that as a strategist, you know, we talk a lot about ideas, but you have to be able to execute something and iterate something for it to truly stand the test of time. So to your question, Taylor, I think market research is very important, but also being able to pivot and evolve and change quickly too. It's almost just as important.
So are you thinking, because I know I've heard this saying, was it Steve Jobs said if you asked Henry Ford what people want, or if he had, I don't know, maybe it was Henry Ford that asked, like if you asked people what they wanted, they would say a faster horse rather than a car. Mm-hmm. Like how do you know when to sort of trust your instinct on like I'm vetting this idea out versus getting feedback, people don't like it, but maybe they just don't see the vision. Sounds like maybe kind of branding and like your point of view comes into this. Like how does someone know when to listen and when to ignore?
Great question. Well, a lot of, you know, even my clients, the people I work with and support, they're following a hunch on an issue that they personally experienced. So oftentimes the leaders I work with are the audience. They are the persona. They're the person that like can no longer stand the discomfort of being in a place where they don't have the solution they're after. So they create the solution. So I think data can be really valuable, but it's, you know, what's most important, I would say, is instinct, intuition, and trusting yourself as well. Like follow through on your instincts, trust yourself, and validate as you go. But you can't do much without that gut impulse. Yeah.
So that's side of it where you kind of have to like, you know, it sounds like you're saying you have to like test it and get feedback, but you also have to like believe and move forward. Was that something that you had to kind of work on yourself, or was it something that was always just innate with you that like, you know, you have an idea and you were comfortable moving forward and taking a shot at it?
Yeah, it's so funny. I've been reflecting on that a lot lately because I had a lot of audacity, I'll call it, like early days. Like I think there was some belief, but I almost feel like it was ignorance or like naivety.
Yeah.
I remember I was working on a process. I didn't really realize I was working on a process, which is ultimately now my intellectual property and something I've been building for about 15 years, the process I use every day now. But I was working on that at the agency that I started at. And my instinct was that this is really great for marketing, this process, but it's going to be even better for brand, because oftentimes marketer, or like when we get client who needs a marketing plan, their issue is brand, because they're not clear on who their audiences are. They're not clear on their positioning strategy. You know, they're not even clear on their voice or their key messaging. So I knew that my process that I was kind of building and working through at the agency would be best applied to in a brand space. So I kind of just like took my idea for this process, pitched it to ultimately my boss at the, you know, who became my boss, someone who became my boss. He was a partner at the time. We outsourced a lot of work to him to build branding or refine branding where our clients needed it. But I said, listen, let me do this process before you even begin design. It's going to give you guys more information on what you should be designing, how you should be crafting visual language. Like I just had gut instinct about it, had not applied it or tested it at all. And he said, okay, let's do it. Like, I think it was like my audacity and my belief in the idea that kind of got me a foot in the door, and probably ultimately our trust and the relationship we had built. And then I started using my process in a brand capacity. So yeah, I think when I was young, I had way more audacity than I do now. Like now I'm just like, oh, maybe I should like check myself, or like, you know, the imposter syndrome sets in and things like that. But there was something really great about just being so damn new at everything. And I think like to anyone who's there, like bottle it, run with it.
And so do you think that sort of like, I guess, losing some of that audacity or being more like aware, do you think that's like helped you? Like, do you think you're in a better place now with that mindset? Or like if you could go back and capture that, like, do you think that's better suited for like running a business?
I think where I'm at now is better suited in a sense, because I probably was pretty insufferable in ways, you know, like I think bless the people that gave me a chance and listened and bought in. I think the awareness is very helpful in a sense where I'm much more grounded. I know what it takes to lift an idea off the ground. I know the commitment it's going to require. It's a double-edged sword, right? I think sometimes I could afford to be more assertive or like stick my feet in a little bit more, or, you know, say a hard like and fast no, right? Those are things I think I could do more with, but I think I'm more level-headed. I'm a little bit more weathered. I've got thicker skin. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, but I'm glad I was her too, you know?
That is something you do hear with a lot of founders though, is like, if I knew how hard it was, I wouldn't have tried. And like, God. I think there's that saying or whatever, like if we're not doing this, we're doing this because we thought it would be easy or something. Like they get into it and they just start something. So it does seem like there's a little bit of it. Start it when you're young and get it going, and then you can be more balanced later.
Oh yeah. You kind of need the ignorance, to be honest, because it is not for the faint of heart. You know, those days where you're like, oh shit, am I going to be able to pay my people? Or, you know, like there's very real stuff that comes up that's like terrifying, and you have to have the stomach for it.
How did you get through those times when I think everyone has this, they have an idea, they're really pumped about it, and then the novelty wears off, things start getting hard. How do you push through that kind of next phase and keep things going?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's actually one of my biggest struggles, because I love like the build phase. Oftentimes I like dream of handing it off, especially in the tough moments. But no, I think what it comes down to for me is, or how I keep going is, I'm so motivated by impact and people. And as long as I'm doing work where I'm impacting people, I'm supporting people, I'm helping people, you know, step into more of their mission, their purpose, that's what pushes me through. That's what keeps me going. No amount of, you know, it for me, it's not about the money. It's about the purpose. It's about the impact. So that's what helps. And I'm also, community too is big.
Like, how would you do that? Would you go talk to people? Like, how do you, because I know it's like one thing to, like, we try to get into specifics so like people can learn from it, but I'm just kind of wondering, like, okay, like you're feeling like, I don't know, I'm just not motivated. do you
Mhm.
just go like talk to customers, or like what would be something that you might do that helps you kind of get motivated again? Or you just kind of sit down and force yourself to work
Yeah.
through it?
I mean, this might be counterintuitive, but I also think it could be helpful. You know, entrepreneurship is not linear. Like there, you're going to have those days where you're not feeling motivated. I think remembering, maybe the feedback or the advice I would give is like, remember it's not permanent. Like this feeling is not permanent. You are a human being with 360 degrees. You have every range of emotion at your fingertips that could come in and out of your, you know, being. You have to just trust that if you are pursuing your passion, if you're in your purpose, so if you're aware of those two things, again, it starts with awareness. So make sure that you have clarity on those two things. It will all unfold as it's meant to. It will all work out as it's meant to. I think where it gets really tough is when you have those days where you don't have motivation and you don't know what you're doing it for. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very, very clear on what my purpose is and what my passion is. But if I didn't have those things at my grasp, you get lost pretty quick. So
So
maybe that's my advice. So if you don't feel like get some support, get some help. That's exactly what I do, is I help my leaders get clear on what their purpose is, what their driver is, what they're here to do, how they're here to serve. Get help. There's lots of really great tools and resources if you're a little bit more of a self-paced, self-guided person. Yeah.
so
Have a
and that, how did you figure out your purpose and passion?
Funny, I actually, so Marrow came out of COVID ultimately. I was called consulting at the time. I had a couple of clients, but I really liked kind of the ease of that because I also had the consignment business. And so I had a couple of clients consulting from a brand strategy perspective. COVID happened. My clients kind of were like, we have to pause. My partner's in restaurants. He was out of work. I was like, oh, I'm the breadwinner all of a sudden, and I have half a job. So I knew I had to brand myself. My company at the time my consultancy at the time was called TSP Consulting Co. So if you're a brand strategist, you really can't have a name like that. It's really not, I'm really not selling myself with that kind of name. Teaspoon, my initials. So I knew I needed to brand myself. That's where Marrow came. And funny enough, at the time, I was working through a naming exercise I would do with my clients. And, I knew that what I love to do is help people get to the core, right? And so Marrow felt like the right name. It's like what's in your bones, right? It's the thing you can't deny it. It's just there. And so because I had a name, it was a starting point. And I actually worked with, a dear friend and collaborator to help me distill my vision. That's another thing I'll say. It's like, I did not come to it alone. It's very hard to come to it alone sometimes because you're so close to it. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible. It definitely is, but I needed help. And so, in workshopping this idea with this collaborator, she actually wrote the words down for me and crafted it for me in the way that I would craft for my clients. She did that for me. And in seeing the words on the page, it was like, that's so it. I felt it, right? So yeah, I guess I'll go back to what I said. Get help. Reach out to who you trust, a collaborator of sorts, or get true brand strategy help, because brand is so tethered to business. It's so tethered to, especially when you're building something, your own version of leadership, your own version of, visioning. It comes from what drives you. So, yeah.
And
It
so
is interesting how many people started businesses out of COVID. We've
Oh my
talked to multiple people, and it sounds like a lot happened because of that.
Yeah, it's such an igniter for sure. And I don't know if I would have started when I did. It's because I had to. I didn't have any option. Yeah.
So during that time when you started, how did you get clients? It sounded like you were at a point where you're like, all right, I gotta step it up, gotta start earning. What was that like in the early days of you, starting to make revenue?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, I gave myself a little bit of leniency because it was COVID and things were just like maybe not, they were not as happening or vibrant as they once were, which gave me the time to properly build, which was amazing. Because, you know, building a brand is like, you got the website, the social media, you know, there's so much you have to do. So I had the space and time to do that. And I'll be honest with you, I just was very, very blessed. I had a lot of industry connections that were very supportive. Lana being one of them, right? Lana was a client of mine, one of my very first. I helped her brand Gentle Lion. So helped her with her name and all the things, right? She was Lana Rogers PR consulting before. And, you know, her team really wanted her to keep close to that name. And she was like, no, we got to let it go. And I'm like, I agree. So she was one. I think the more I just started to talk about the idea and share, and not be so precious about it. I think we all, especially when it's new, you have this kind of propensity to like hold it to close to your chest and be like, oh, I don't know, but like just get it out, just air it out, talk about it. People started to pay attention. I think it was, and it still is one of my greatest case studies around brand, is that I knew I didn't want to work with, you know, overly rigid entities. I knew I wanted to work with purpose-led leaders. I knew I wanted to work with people who were feelers as opposed to believers and visionaries. And all of the choices I made for my brand helped attract me to the right people. So yeah, I always lean on that as a case study. It's like sometimes it feels scary to like niche in and, you know, maybe do it differently or say it differently, but actually in a world that's so noisy, that's how you lift out of the noise, and that's how people who need you can find you.
So the lesson is kind of like be more opinionated, take action, bring other people in, and that helps you sort of discover it as a process. This is a little bit of a silly question, but what's the difference between branding and marketing?
No, I love that question. I get that question all the time. It's great. So what's the best way? What's my metaphor? I actually have wrote many a blog post about this. So brand is really your core idea. It's what you stand for. And marketing is how you amplify that message. So brand is really defining your why and what you're here to do. That comes in many different cues, right? We've got verbal cues, we've got visual cues that identify what your business and brand does and how you're here to show up and serve. Whereas marketing is how you amplify that message across all the different channels to engage and reach the audiences that need your message. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, but it's very, very hard to market when you don't have a brand.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Like what then makes a good brand? Like what would you say is something that you're like, this is ready for you to put some advertising dollars in? Because I think that's something startups too. It's like, at what point do I start like investing into advertising? They're probably bootstrapping or have maybe budget conscious. They want to make sure that money goes a long way. Like, how do they know that they're ready to sort of invest in marketing?
Great question. I mean, I think it comes down to like, are you clear on your core idea? Are you clear on your core idea? So when we think of maybe some of the most well-known brands, Apple being a well-known brand, what do we think Apple's core idea is without seeing any of their brand messaging? Intuitive design, ease, beauty, right? Those are the things they're here to deliver. Everything syncs together when you are in the Apple ecosystem. You don't have to think, super intuitive, super user-friendly, and innovative. What else? McDonald's, happiness in a box, right? Like just like Happy Meals. Like their idea is like all their ads, all their advertisements. It's like when you know a brand is doing something well, you could probably likely distill it down to the core idea. If you don't have clarity on your core idea, you're not ready to market.
Yeah, I really wish McDonald's would go back to it. It was like the 90s, early 90s. I think their branding was really fun. They had all the mascots and they had those like they'd have like hamburger chairs and it was like very, very eccentric. It was fun. No, that's very good. What's an unusual branding strategy or branding approach that you find works well for maybe people aren't even really thinking about?
Mm. Well, actually, it's top of mind because I just did a piece of content on this, but the Row is a fashion house by the Olsen twins. Are you guys familiar with the Row? Anyway,
Yeah.
so the design is very like sleek, minimalism, quality, and actually something they're very famous for is not partaking in any of the existing like marketing campaign, paid advertising stunts that we see a lot of fashion brands doing. They actually don't let you they used to anyway, didn't let you take your cell phones into their shows. They hardly have logos or branding anywhere in their showrooms. They don't partake in, you know, their grid on Instagram is like, looks like a gallery. It's artwork. They talk about playlists. Like they are the antithetical fashion house in a sense, where they're doing it completely different. So I would say oftentimes that's an interesting strategy. I really like that. It's like, you're in an industry, there's best practice, there's things that all of the people are doing. What makes sense for your brand that's unconventional? Because we're in a world, again, that's like there's so much to consume. Can you do it differently and then therefore stand out? It's a you know, attention is currency right now. So that's a strategy I recommend thinking about.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is your like a brand that like you look to and you're like they're doing it right? Like I know you mentioned the Row, but is there anyone that just on like a I don't know, from all angles you would look to them as like a good case study?
Oh, that's such a good one. I mean, I really love Ben and Jerry's for what they've been very activist oriented, and actually recently I believe it's either Ben or Jerry. One of them has stepped down because Unilever, who owns the company, is not allowing them to honor what their purpose is and their mission is. And so I really love that example because they really stand in their beliefs. They really own what they believe. I'm very inspired by fashion. You know, the Row being one. Amélie Leon Dore is another one. I love how they are often sharing like DJs in their retail spaces playing a set. You know, it's like bringing the lifestyle elements in to consumable products is really interesting because it showcases it's so beyond a purchase. It's about existing in a brand world that these brands create. There's probably many more, but I think for me, if I was to distill it down, I think I'm most inspired by brands who just like stick to their guns and know themselves and like don't follow the trends. You know, it's like so clickbaity and so trendy out there. It's actually really powerful when brands go against the grain on that. I really respect that.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed on your website too, that you have like, you know, Spotify playlists, you have a musing section. So what role does that play, I guess? Because you're obviously a branding agency, but you also have to I guess like let people know about you and yourself. So what kind of led to like the decision for you to start like writing and you know creating playlists, and how has that impacted, I guess, your ability to get customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think again, it was more instinct than anything. I knew I wanted to create something I was passionate about, so it was a little bit, you know, self-serving in a sense, but also it tells a story. The playlists are all dependent on like moon cycles. Again, my witchy side, but there's something really kind of neat about the cycle of the moon. It's kind of a reset. We get one every single month. So the energy of that new moon informed the playlist. It was something me and my partner did because he would actually curate the playlist. He's like a music aficionado. He like knows all the things about music and he's always on top of it. So something we could do together. And then it tells a story in a sense where with a reset, there's always like a ritual of sorts, like a ritual in a sense of a practice or a routine or a rhythm. And when we are talking about, you know, purpose or motivation that people use or lean on when they're pursuing their passion, pursuing their brand, it really requires you to be in deep reflection with yourself, because you constantly have to be revisiting that purpose or that passion. You have to be, it needs to be top of mind. And so for me, in a sense, just was inspiring because I felt like that was something I was asking my clients to do, was to be in reflection with themselves. And so it made sense for me at the time in terms of creating this, just this, you know, something to look forward to and something to bring into their own worlds if they wanted. And so it felt brand aligned at the time. It was a little bit of a reach. It was fun. I want to do more of that. But yeah, I think it's all entwined. Your brand, some of the best brands, the most respected brands, they create a world, they create a lifestyle.
At what stage do you think, so obviously people are trying to figure out the idea, should they be working with brand experts like as soon as possible, or is it something that like once they can delay it a bit as long as they're willing to pivot because maybe they aren't quite sure what their product even is? Like, where do you see them working with branding?
That's a great question. I think it's always going to depend on whether your product or service, you know, what kind of elements of brand do you truly need? For example, a product, you know, your packaging, your brand, those things are so critical, especially to make a sale. So I would say if you're in that space, you likely need to build a brand sooner than later. That said, I'll say this to anyone who's listening, who's at that stage. It's like, be prepared for you to evolve, and therefore your brand might also need to evolve. Try not to be precious. Sometimes it's best to just get something out into the world. Again, it's that iteration thing that I've talked about. As a brand strategist, I'm super pragmatic. I'm not going to tell you to go spend all your cash dollars on a spiffy brand when you don't have the operations to support it, the marketing, the runway. Again, just like be scrappy. Like be scrappy as long as you can, and seek support in some of the places that you're not an expert in. I do find, you know, paying good people for their talents, I'm always going to advocate for that. But if you can get away with, you know, maybe hiring someone to help you build some of this strategy work, and then maybe you can, you know, maybe you've got a knack for Canva or whatever it may be. I know some of my partners are going to kill me for saying that, but I do believe that, you know, just like do what you can while you can, with the understanding that you will evolve, you will iterate, you will have the moment in time in your business where you can actually approach your brand and redesign or rebuild it the way that you really want to. And when you do that, again, make sure you're clear on that idea, because then those choices from a brand perspective will carry longevity. They will last you a lot longer. You know, it's one thing to design something pretty and put all your eggs into a visual identity, but if you don't have the strategy to hold that up, it probably won't last very long, you know. So would be my recommendation.
And with like a branding studio, and you said it started off as, you know, a consultancy, is it tough to balance, like, you know, because you're the founder of it, it kind of is, you know, your talent and skill that's going to be the one, you know, you're lending your services to the branding. Is it tough for you to like separate, I guess, like your company Marrow and yourself, and like that balance between like promoting yourself and putting yourself out there as like an expert in branding? I guess I'm just curious, is like, how do you manage that, where it's like you're out there explaining that you're an expert, but it's also like you have this company that like you want to put that out there. So what's that process like for you? Is that something you think about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I will say this first and foremost, I'm like nothing without my team. I have a hugely talented team that supports what we do at Marrow. It is a balance because I can do what I do, but mostly because of the team who supports the work that we've created and that we've processed out, and the brands we've built together. I have excellent partners as well, and really great trust in the field. you know, for many years, Marrow was me. So my identity was very tethered to Marrow. And that's been a process because I'm currently in kind of the untethering of that and, you know, making people aware of my team and letting my clients know, like, it is not just me. And there's power in that for sure. And I think as a business, you want to be thinking about that. This is a brand strategy plug too. I knew that it couldn't be my name on the door. Like, I'm very collaborative by nature. It's why I named it Marrow. I wanted it to be something that other people could connect with and own and participate in and make it feel like theirs. Yeah, that was important for me. And so when you are building a business, thinking about, does this need to be my name? Because is it totally and solely me? Or do I want a team? Do I want a way to allow this to evolve beyond me? Those were all considerations I had made in the beginning. And I'm so glad I did, because I'm in that place now where I'm creating separation between who Tanya is and who is Marrow, and how are they different? How are they the same? What does that look like?
Yeah, you gave some really good advice already with like iterating, like understanding your values and bringing other people in. Like, is there any other, one thing we like to ask is just like, is there any other advice you'd give to other people maybe early on in the journey? Like, what would you tell them, or what would you tell yourself if you could go back?
I think your redirects in business are your greatest opportunities. So, you know, early on in my business, one of like my right hand, who I admired and loved working with, left. And that was gutting, you know, she knew the process. We barely had to talk about it. It was just like this synergistic working relationship. But that parting of ways actually allowed for me to bring on new people, and the energy of new people was so inspiring for my creativity at the time. It's like, trust the timing of your life, and trust that when something bad happens, like terrible or unprecedented or unexpected happens, it's actually the universe guiding you in the right direction. That is a really good redirect. And just, even if you can't see it at the moment, it will present, and you'll learn it down the line. You'll learn why down the line. Just trust it. Try not to resist it. Go with it. Yeah. I've had a couple of those.
So when you look back, obviously you've had, you know, a pretty lengthy entrepreneurial journey at this point. What would you say, like, looking back, was like the biggest win that you can remember, where it's just like you were so pumped on what you did, what you accomplished? Is there anything that sticks out?
Oh man, I mean, I do remember this one question from your list. I'm going to be so cheesy and say this, but like, I feel like I win every single time we get to bring a brand to market, and I see like the confidence or the pride or the excitement of my clients. Like, I'm so motivated by that. I think some of our brand collabs that we've been able to do feels like a really big win. You know, I got to support the development of Northwater. I don't know if either of you are familiar with that, but did the focus group and the naming and all about, you know, figuring out what the bottle should feel like and look like and all of those things. And, you know, I think that they're in 600 stores at this point. It's such a beautiful story of founded by immigrants and women, and that has lifted off, and that's been incredible. Milk Jar is another one that I'm so excited about and proud of, because I just believe in Holly so much, and what she builds and creates, and the culture she cultivates. And so being able to support in a very small way just feels so exciting. I'm really passionate about lifting up creators and makers and business owners in our city and beyond, because I think Calgary has a lot of incredible talent. So I don't know, I win all the time. I feel like I'm winning all the time. I feel so lucky. So yeah, that answers your question.
That's amazing. This has been really good. We learned a lot. Before we let you go, we do want to give you a chance to promote where people can find you, reach out to you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we are active on Instagram. You can find us at Marrow Studio _ website marrowstudio.ca. I'm private, so just follow our business. I like to stay a little private, funny enough. But if you really want, Tanya P is my handle. Send us a DM. I love connecting with people. Oh, something that we are doing, and it's newer. It's a newer offering, but I'm really passionate about it. It's very heart-led work for me. Is we do something called a Promise Workshop. Promise Workshop is really helping people distill their purpose, which is essentially like the core driver, and their promise statement, which is like an elevator pitch. So it's a very kind of, you know, condensed element of the workshop work that I do with my clients. It's good for anyone who's at that fork in the road, or is curious if they're in the right career path, or, you know, really does want to distill what their purpose is and their passion is. It's intimate, 10 people max, and I take you through a series of exercises to help you get to that point. It's something that's really, again, it's just by invite only at this point, but if you do want to be invited, jump on to our list. You can find that at marrowstudio.ca/get on the list. And then you're on it, and you will be invited to join us at our next workshop.
Well, thank you so much. We'll definitely check that out, but we really appreciate the time. It was fantastic to connect, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, you guys. Thank you so much for the chat.